Hello everyone, my name is Feni Jannati. My student number is 22232200001. I'm from class 3A. Okay, who here wants to go board or study abroad? Surely everyone wants that, right? Does anyone think about why you should study abroad or think about the benefit of studying abroad? Feeling like it's not different from studying at home. Okay, this time I will explain the papers about study abroad's contribution to critical thinking and world citizenship by Amin Newell. These papers recommended certain policies and practice to help ensure the design gain. Because first, creative thought and critical thought cannot be separated. Second, the intellectual traits constitutive of critical thinking are independent. The twin these combined with certain impact studies show that studies abroad enhance both creativity and critically. The primary value of such gains reside in their potential to realize not only the Socratic ideal of relationality but also the Diogenes ideal of cosmopolitanism. The former consists in the cultivation of fair-minded, creative, and critical individualists and societies, whereas the latter consists in the cultivation of citizens of the world and the single community to which they belong. Okay, I will explain the benefits of study abroad. The study abroad positively influence the maturity, education, and career path of participants. When asked about personal development, 96% said study abroad increasing their self-confidence. 97% said it enhanced their maturity. 89% said it empowered them to tolerate ambiguity, and 84% said it caused them to modify their socio-political position. When questioned about intercultural development, 98% said study abroad expand their understanding of their own cultural values and bias. 82% said it helped them develop a more refined way of looking at the world. 90% said it inspired them to cultivate a more diverse circle of friends, and 64% said it encouraging them to explore others' culture. When queried about academic commitment, 80% said study abroad reside their interest in academic student. 86% said it strengthened their commitment to foreign language study. 87% said it helped shape their subsequent educational experience, and 64% said it influenced their decision to attend graduate school. When asked about career development, 62% said study abroad triggered an interest in a career direction pursued after. 76% said it enabled them to acquire skill sets that influence their career path. 65% said it enhanced their ability to speak a foreign language used in the workplace. And the last is 48% said it prompted them to engage in international work of volunteerism. Okay, the next is beyond the cultural and linguistic benefits. Stronger results have been embodied. Irvin Clare's 3 et al. Show that students who participate in study abroad not only improve their intercultural communication skills to a greater degree than those who don't, but also achieve a significantly higher level of intercultural communication after they experience that their stay-at-home counterparts. Finally, living abroad has been found to boost creativity. In a series of 5 studies, William W. Maddox and Adam D. Glansky discovered a robust correlation between living overseas and ancient creativity, identifying adaptation as the critical mechanism that underlies this linkage. The hypothesis thus adaptation may be the key physiological elements that explain why living abroad is associated with creativity, because culture is such a pervasive force impacting and shaping every aspect of one's life. Adapting oneself to a new culture, learning how to behave and think in a different way, may make individuals chronically aware of multiple perspectives and approach when dealing with mundane and novel situations, and thus may be associated with increasing creativity. The next is the inseparability of creativity and critically. Thinking, whether creative or critical, is a cognitive achievement, something which the mind must work to attain. Creative thinking involves a process of making or constructing, whereas critical thinking involves a process of judging or assessing. When engaged in sound thinking, especially in a self-reflection manner, one cannot help performing the creative and critical functions simultaneously. Whereas creative thinking is diverse, critical thinking is convergent. Whereas critical thinking tries to create something new, critical thinking seeks to access worth of validity in something that exists. Where creative thinking is carried on by violating accepted principle, critical thinking is carried on by applying accepted principle. Critical thinking is carried on by applying accepted principle. Although creative and critical thinking may very well be different sides of the same coin, they are not identical. And the next is the interdependence of intellectual traits. According to the Paul Elder model, the traits characteristically present in critical thinkers include intellectual humility, intellectual courage, intellectual empathy, intellectual perseverance, intellectual integrity, intellectual autonomy, confident in reason, and fair-mindedness. The reason intellectual integrity recalls intellectual autonomy is this intellectual integrity consists in being true to one's own thinking, being consistent in the application of the standards one uses to assess one's own thinking, holding oneself to the same robust standards of evidence one expects others to meet, and acknowledging inconsistencies in one's own truth, feeling, action matrix that are nothing but different forms of thinking for oneself in accordance with standard of rationality, and such thinking for oneself consists intellectual autonomy. Uh, all viewpoints are equal in the sense that they face the same tribunal of reason and are subject to the same standard of rationality. A fair-minded thinker doesn't discriminate against any uh, viewpoint because of her feelings of or vested interest or the feelings or vested interest of member of any group to which she belongs. Uh, Applying the same intellectual standard, Tooth and Tooth, she treats all viewpoints alike without reference to her own advantage or the advantage of any of her groups. Consequently, if we are to commit ourselves to the fair play of reason, we shall have to be just to be views we oppose and consider them in their strong from so as not to dismiss or disparage them out of ignorance or bias. To discharge this duty, we need intellectual humility, which is what we positioned at the beginning. Okay, the next is the cultivation of critical thinking. Given the interdependence of intellectual trends, if study about furthers the development of intellectual humanity, intellectual courage, intellectual empathy, and intellectual perseverance, it's also further the development of intellectual integrity, intellectual autonomy, and confidence in reason, and where miscellaneous intellectual trends constitutive of critical thinking are thus incited, and so is critical thinking itself. The next is the Socratic ideal of rationality. Socrates was a critical thinker par excellence, the Platonic form of critical thinking, as it were. As envisioned by Platon's dialogues, he manifests all intellectual trends constitutive of critical thinking. Socrates, or rather Socrates, demonstrate intellectual humanity by professing ignorance of the truth of the matter under discussion, whether in be pity, to pro justice, republic, friendship, or leases, or knowledge is that tools. And the last is the Diagonine ideal of cosmopolitanism. Study about this make a contribution to the realization of the diagnosed ideal of cosmopolitanism, so named in honor of Diogenes the Cynics, the first thinker to have called himself a citizen of the world. Just a certain trends and habits characterizes the critical way of life, so certain virtues and commitments and exemplity of cosmopolitanism mode of being. Just a study about develops the critical trends and habits, so it furthers the cosmopolitanism virtues and commitments. Okay, in conclusion, first, study abroad, while not inexpensive, furthers the development of informed, critical, and creative thinkers who communicate effectively. To borrow a signature phrase from my university's quality and size and enhancement plan, second, considering adaptation is the critical mechanism that underlines two robust correlation between living overseas and incited creatively. Study abroad programs ought to be structured in such a way as a critical participant chance of adapting to the host country culture. And the last, no president profess clean or study about direction will discourse the explanation of studying abroad on her or his campus, with most actively encouraging it, yet the kinds of inquiry and assessment that typically accompany first year program academic curricula, learning, communities, and other campus programs have largely been absent from studying abroad. Maybe that's all I can say. Hopefully, it can be useful and can help those of you who want to study abroad. Thank you and see you.